You think about having a Quintin Williams, DeForest Buckner pairing on the interior, and of course you got D Ford on the outside with the speed rush. So you've got three dominant players on your offensive line. Kind of the other difference is, well, then you can take Nick Bosa and put him on the strong side edge, and now you've got two outside pass rushers and an interior disruptor in DeForest Buckner. So to be honest with you, it's hard to go wrong with either.
Are you listening?
Ronbo Sports here, representing the Niner Empire organization worldwide, where football just never ends. And I'm talking, I'm each and every day. I can't stop talking about football. Look at you. You're hanging in there with me, too. Because we got things going on this year, fam. Got things going on. I know I said it last year, the year before that, but this is it. This is the one. Now that I got that off my chest, I want to talk. Hey, the grades were handed out for the 49ers free agency. Wasn't right? Okay, it fluctuates. There were some nasty grades given out, and there were some good grades given out. Guys like Nate Burleson and dudes who like to be hating on the 49ers, they're never going to say any good thing about the 49ers until they get to the Super Bowl. And they better not do the Rams and go in there and get their butt beat. They got to go in and win, or else they ain't going to get no respect, no love, nothing else. But fam, look at, realistically, look at that free agency period. They addressed some very serious needs. You and I both know everybody's been crying and complaining about it. We've been getting butchered off the edge. This defense can't work without an edge. It's already been proven for that, for sure. So they go and they make a trade, and that's not free agency, but they made a deal. I'm going to call it part of the acquisitions in the offseason. They make a deal with the Chiefs, who've been very cooperative, as John Lynch has said, to go ahead and release D Ford in a trade to us who really need it. D Ford brings something that we really need coming off the edge, and D Ford is good, and in fact, he's the best in the league at forcing turnovers. Who didn't have turnovers all year? Us! To the point of embarrassment! D Ford led the league in that. He led the league in turn and also pressures. All right? 13 sacks. You just had him and D-Buck alone, that's 26 sacks. You put them on the field at the same time together, sacks are probably going to go up on both of them. That's a good, solid move. Now, they say there's things to be desired about D Ford's run stoppage, but I believe we got guys in the middle who can handle that. So I ain't really worried about that. We definitely got a great linebacking crew. Which brings up my next point. And we're going to go to Quan Alexander. Yeah, people don't like him because Quan's coming off an ACL injury, and we've had way too much of that anyway, and I agree with that. But Quan Alexander, it's just like John said, we're willing to wait for him. And we need to stop thinking the 49ers are just stupid. They had their doctors go in and check him out. Do you remember when we thought the same thing about Reuben? We said Reuben Foster's got a bad shoulder. And why are the 49ers picking him up knowing that? It wasn't Reuben's shoulder that was the problem. It was it was Reuben's mind that had a problem. You can't fix that. So, if the doctor said Quan Alexander will be fine, it's healing, it'll probably come along okay. You probably didn't use the word probably. He'll be fine shortly. He just needs a little more time to rehab, and he should be good to go. Bam! They look at Quan, and analysts are saying, I won't call them experts, I'll say analysts are saying, you have to have something like Cam Chancellor in a cover 3 defense. Quan fits that bill. This guy is all over the field like a lightning bolt. You add his play with that of Fred Warner, and the glue has you put it right in the right place to get things to stick together. Now you've got a combination that's gonna get it done. These are strategic picks, even if they don't look like the best player in the NFL, because you're seeing whoever on another team doing great, and he's making billions of dollars this year. That doesn't mean he's best for our scheme. So the 49ers, as John says, R&D, research and development, they've researched and they look at what they do and they look at who's out there and they figure out how they're going to fit into the equation. I ain't mad at that myself. All right. Here's something everybody is concerned about, though. Well, Jason Barret, but before I say anything about Jason Barret, let me remind you also, these guys, both Quan Alexander and D. Ford, Parag Marath, even though people aren't appreciating him too much these days either, Parag sits down and mathematically protects the 49ers. He's giving them all their money up front. So if things don't work out in the first year, they've got incentivized contracts. And if things don't work out, if we don't go to the Pro Bowl, if they don't get X amount of tackles, if they don't do this, if they don't do that, whatever they've arranged in the contract, we can say goodbye. We tried. Get out. Quan, D4, they both got the contracts written that way, and they believe in themselves, and that's a good thing, too. I don't want guys walking there saying, well, I got to have my money, man, no matter what happens. No. They believe in themselves, and we can believe in them, too. Jason Barret. Do you realize if Jason Barret works out how good a shape we're going to be in at the corner? My. Now you got two potential all-pros on both sides. And here's the best thing about all of that. Now, Jason's on a one-year contract to prove that he can actually stay in the game. And also, he's going to get that same incentive. You get to the Pro Bowl, you do this, you do that, and we're going to make sure you get well paid for it, and we're talking about another contract next year. Meanwhile, there's a Kello Witherspoon. And I've been asking around. I keep asking people, because I'm thinking I'm losing my mind, right? I say, is it just me? Or did Kello look good last year? Some people said, man, it's just you. But some people noticed. Kello didn't have anybody pushing him last year. Now he's got Barret. Now he's got Tavarius Moore. Kello is under extreme stress to perform. I have a feeling we're going to see a Kello Witherspoon as we saw him in his freshman year with the 49ers. And maybe to the next level, because as I said, he was starting to get it last year. I still blame Hafley for, here's a play on words, I blame Hafley for half the mistakes we saw last year. Maybe even more. So we got a new coach in, and we have a Kello Witherspoon in his third year, and I do believe he's going to blossom, all right? So I'm telling you right now. And we picked up a few more guys, you got, and I tell you what, I really do like Jordy Matthews. Oh, I'm sorry, don't call him Jordy yet. We don't know him that well. Jordan Matthews, I think he's going to come in and do a good job for us. I just got a feeling because when you get with Jimmy G, no matter how good you are, you go to the next level of good. And Jordan Matthews wasn't bad before he came here, right? He and Kendrick Bourne are going to battle. I know, I don't say, hey, Ronbo, man, we know how you feel about Kendrick Bourne. I don't care. Kendrick's got to go out there and win that job. And that means they will push each other. Because I count my boy Kendrick out. We can talk about that a little later on. Because I know you wait for my boy to fail. Don't let him succeed. Because Kendrick's still going to get time on the field anyway. Because, he was the heir apparent after Pierre Garçon was asked to leave. So here comes Jordan Matthews. No, not so fast. Not so fast. This job could be mine, and maybe it might be yours. So there's a competition right there. So they picked up Mayo for depth. There's little pickups here and there, but nobody's getting paid a whole lot of money. So the 49ers have protected themselves with the guys they pick up. And if these guys work out, it's going to be excellent for the 49ers' chances going forward. So I like what I'm seeing. I'm giving 49ers. I'm giving them a B+ on that so far. Yes! Critics out here running buck wild with all them nasty grades. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know us. Outsiders looking in. They don't know. They just look at the value of the player that's being brought in, and then they do what they do. All right. Here comes that time period though that we're going to get excited about. We're going to have to. It's that shameless, deceit-filled time when John Lynch has got that big grin on his face and he's saying things. And you say, John, you really mean that, John? Oh man! I got to tell you though, in the draft. That is something that is, you have to play games. You don't want any other GMs in the league to know what you're going to do. So the 49ers have made the rounds, the pro days. They've talked to people during the combine. They've had dinner and fed Quintin Williams, that is, because he's one of the guys to consider. They've fed my main dude, Nicky B. We've got to the Nicky B point now. They took Nick Bosa out and asked him all kinds of questions. What they do is they're trying to feel players out, see what kind of mind they're talking to, what kind of attitude they possess, and what do they bring to the table as far as attitude. So if they're going to come to the 49ers, are you going to bring the kind of work ethic that we think that you'll apply by just the conversation we're having here today? And they're going to get a feel for your personality, because the character is a big deal with the 49ers. They've already told you about that. How many times? You know, I know what you're thinking. They didn't see no character problems with Reuben Foster. I know. In fact, they spoke highly of Reuben Foster. Remember they said how he comes in the room and he just lights it up and he's one of the nicest guys to talk to? So you have to be careful of certain kind of people, because they know how to do that. You know, a con man can talk himself into anything, and then you find out about him being different a little later on. It's too late. Enough about Reuben, though, because we've already gotten that problem already adjusted. But, yeah, and here's the problem, though. The 49ers are not going to go visit Josh Allen. They're not even going to attend the Kentucky Pro Day. How come? Okay, I have a theory that's worrying me to death. I think the 49ers have made up their mind. And Josh Allen fans, boy, y'all go, I'm thinking they've already made up their mind. They want Josh Allen. And why? Because they're only talking to Quintin Williams and Nick Bosa to see if there's anything they can say or do that's going to change their mind. Because why would you go see what Josh Allen is doing? Why don't you want to go talk to him? I'm so worried if the 49ers don't pick up Nick Bosa. I'm going to be so mad at him this time. I don't know what that do. You can't pick up Josh Allen in the first round.
Drop Date countdown time, baby Bubba.
Yeah, it is. I was just talking about
I already know who you are.
What?
I seen all them Nick Bosa photos you got hanging up in the living room. What is wrong with you?
I like Nick Bosa. So what?
They trading down, Ronbo. Picking up Allen, Polite, or Burns, and will use the trade capital to get back up into the first to pick up A.J. Brown.
What?
You don't know what you be doing.
Oh.
And I'm gone.
Good, you need to be gone. Coming here telling me that. That's just awful. It's not going to happen. It's not. We don't need to be trading down. You got number 2. How many times are you going to get number 2? We're not. We even lose our number 2 pick next year. We're not going to be going number 2 every year. And besides, what am I going to do with all those Nick Bosa photos? I've been exposed. You know I like Nick Bosa. I haven't made any secret about it. I already got him coming off on one side. I got D Ford coming off the other. I got the quarterback suffering complete and pure pain. If there is one thing I'm concerned about, is the safety. You know, you know what? I'm gonna go right now. I want to talk to you. Get your opinion. The guy I want to talk to, you're gonna love him. I got Peter Panacy. Let's go talk to Peter right now and see what's up. Larry fam, I have decided today. You know how I'm overly optimistic all the time, and normally 70% of what I 85% of what I've said for the last 3 years can be proven to be absolutely wrong. So I brought Peter Panacy in order to keep things 100 and in clear, proper perspective, as Peter is qualified to do so. We're talking about a guy whose energy is endless when it comes to the 49ers. It's all web zone. He's also got Niner noise. It even says when you see on his Twitter account, site expert. I saw that, that describes you exactly. Welcome on in, Peter.
What's happening, Ronbo? How you doing?
Oh, man, I tell you, Peter, it's like I said moments ago, each and every year, I come in with all the hope in the world and get my heart broken. And this goes all the way back to 2014 when I thought we were a Super Bowl winning team. And then 2015, the Tom Sula, I don't even know what to call that. And then Chip Kelly came in and put an exclamation point on all the misery in the world. And then last year, finally, after starting off terribly, Jimmy Garoppolo rides in on a shine. I mean, the guy's got the armor on and everything. And we win 5 in a row. And it's, oh, here we come. Oh, and Peter, then we go into the 2018 season. And Jimmy gets hurt. Oh, why do these things keep happening? Mm-hmm. But anyway, Peter, it's a new day. I guess I made myself crazy. Hey, but Peter, how's everything, actually, before I get into any questions?
Oh, It's good. It's busy. It's the NFL never has a downtime.
No.
So I mean, with free agency just being crazy, and then all the rumors that lead up to it, and then of course you get into it. Well, draft season can be year round, so it's literally just one thing after the other. Yeah. Which it keeps you busy, and what's good is that keeps the hope up because you always have something to look forward to next.
That's right, getting better. In fact, Peter, the popular pick camps have already formed like they do each and every year. People want this guy, and that other group wants the other guy, and everybody stands up for who they think should be on there or in the 49ers locker room. But Peter, honestly, who's the best fit? And there's only 2 or 3 candidates anyway, because Quintin Williams just entered the mix a little while ago. At first, it was the fan favorite, and I got a feeling if they had to take a voting poll right now, would indeed Josh Allen be the people's choice? Or would it be my guy, Nick Bosa, whom I'm seeing is technically sound a no-miss pick? Wait, let me do Peter, before I get into my biases, address this, please.
Well, gosh, this is tough. I don't think Josh Allen is going to be the pick anymore. I think the discussion about him has kind of started to peter off a little bit, no pun intended. But I think he's probably been pushed down a little bit, and it's come down to Nick Bosa and Quintin Williams. And obviously so much of that has to do with what happens with Arizona at number 1. Do they go Kyler Murray, or do they say, hey, guess what? Fooled you, we're taking Nick Bosa. Yeah, that's what's tough. But, when you're looking at both those two, I mean, you can see Quintin Williams and see just how big of an interior disruptor and Aaron Donald type prospect. I know the 49ers have a lot of depth on that defensive line, but you think Eric Armstead could be gone. He's on his 5th-year option, so he could be gone the following year. Solomon Thomas, is kind of at that prove-it stage right now, and you think about having a Quintin Williams, DeForest Buckner pairing on the interior. And, of course, you got D Ford on the outside with the speed rush. So you've got 3 dominant players on your offensive line. Kind of the other difference is, then you could take Nick Bosa and put him on the strong side edge. And now you've got 2 outside pass rushers and an interior disruptor in DeForest Buckner. So to be honest with you, it's hard to go wrong with either. So, it's almost a matter of preference. But, you flip a coin. I have no idea.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Peter, because I've also seen an analysis where maybe you don't put Quinnen in that particular spot with a big, grunt, strong guy like Mitchell was for us in the past couple of years. Then you look at DJ Jones, a projected starting there. He's a big, strong guy that gets drops the hips and takes on and absorbs blockers and allows DeForest Buckner to do the damages he'll do. And, of course, is Quinnen... is he built for that kind of position? Because I don't want to see Buckner holding down the NT or that defensive tackle position to the left side. One of them needs to be the guy that absorbs all the blocks, and both of them do. But Buckner, Buckner sheds blocks pretty well. But can Quinnen do that and still be effective?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can be a 3-down lineman. You could put him in base, and DJ Jones is a great nose tackle, but then you keep in mind that base defenses now are about 35% of snaps.
Yeah, right.
So it's like you almost are going to be in your nickel all the time. So, but Quintin Williams can be a guy who can be on the interior in a run-stopping formation. Plus, too, you remember back to his rookie season, DeForest Buckner played an end, so he can slide out if you wanted to. I'm not saying that's what the 49ers do, but you got some flexibility there if that means you put a player like Quintin Williams and you want him on the field to be, he was a great run stopper. You saw his tape at Alabama, phenomenal at that. And against some pretty darn good running teams, Georgia comes to mind. But yeah, that would be a definite pick your poison from the 49ers defense. Be like, okay, do you block Bosa, or not Bosa? Do you block Buckner? Do you block Quintin Williams? What do you do? And there's no real easy solution for any offensive line there or slide protection, whatever.
There it is. Peter's he's put Quintin Williams back in the mix. Peter's going to be a wide 9 formation too that they're talking about doing. How are you going to lay that out? Because I think about that. There's all kind of candidates now to stretch out across that deal. How would you set that up? Have you got to package that thing together?
Well, if you're going to do that, I mean, you got D Ford in that, it's that weak side Leo elephant role. So he's going to be there. At least it sounds what the case is going to be. John Lynch said so when they had their introductory presser that he envisions him as that Leo. DeForest Buckner at that 3 technique. And then when you're running, it depends on what you want to do in passing situations and what have you. But if you want to do that wide 9, you can try to get, your Eric. I wouldn't say Eric Armstead, but he's more bitter at that big end side. But you could place Solomon Thomas, playing him on the inside in those sub packages. Much better of a straight ahead rusher, on the interior as opposed to a wide 9 trying to get around the edge. And then, if Nick Bosa is the pick, well, guess what? You've got your big end pass rusher too. And, some of the best defenses in the league, Denver, the Broncos, they've got 2 excellent outside rushers that can rush from the wide 9. They can get speed around the edge while overpowering blockers too. So
like I said, this is going to be so dramatic. And Peter, you see, like you said, the base package is probably going to be, what percentage of the time do you think they're going to use it? Because when you have the kind of flexibility the 49ers seem to be forming right now, because we don't know what Contavious Street is capable of, whether or not they're going to get rid of Shelton Day, is he going to make this team? You've also got Ronny Blair, one of my favorite guys. There's so many different kind of pieces, and they've all got a little different to offer out there. Is this defense getting close to where they need to be to contend?
Yeah, I think so. And here's the part that I think you're finally going to see now is that, that defensive front with, all the first round investments that have come along through the years never quite panned out to what you thought. This could be the year where you really see it with D Ford. I know people are worried, he only had 2 10-plus sack seasons. Well, last year was pretty darn good, and he's kind of only coming into his own now. And so that's going to take so much pressure off everything else. I mean, you think about the linebackers, you think about the secondary that was so banged up last year. Yeah, and finally, you're going to have that pass rush. I don't know how many times we'd be watching games, and it was literally like you're seeing, DeForest Buckner handle a lot of the work, and other pass rushers getting close, maybe forcing some pressure, but then a pass is made down the field and a defensive back just couldn't hang on long enough. That's going to start going away now. And I think that's going to be a big difference. And the 49ers, kind of with their actions in free agency and trades and everything like that, not so much putting a focus on the defensive backfield, on the secondary. Instead, they're worrying about that front 7. You remember back in the earlier part of this decade, the 49ers had kind of average defensive backs. They had Justin Smith and Alden Smith, Ray McDonald wreaking havoc up front, Patrick Willis, Bowman. I wonder if that's kind of the same theory going forward to try to get that strong front 7 back and then take the pressure off the secondary.
I got to believe that too, because it only makes sense. It's just ABC of football. If you could pressure that quarterback and not give him enough time to do the things he wants to do, and also allow that wide receiver who's NFL wide receivers, if you give him enough time, I don't care who's back there covered, he's going to get beat, especially if that quarterback can extend the play a la Russell Wilson. And now you got Patrick Mahomes. There's guys that are fleet of foot, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, we're going to have to play them next year. You got guys that are fleet of foot now as quarterbacks, and they can get out and extend that offensive play a little longer. You've got to have guys that are just beasts coming in to get up. Quan Alexander. Now you've got Quan, you've got also last year's, and I only call him an all-pro, we got Freddie Warner. I tell you, I'm starting to like the way this team looks, Peter.
Yeah, the pieces are coming together. That's the thing that's kind of like refreshing now. And it's taken, probably a little longer than we would have liked, but to be honest with you, the final few pieces that you need to address this defense, well, guess what? It's pretty darn deep in the draft as far as what you need to add. And the defense will at least, even if the defense is just average, compared with what the offense was able to do with Jimmy Garoppolo a couple years ago, assuming that picks up again, you're going to be looking at a team that could really compete this year.
And we talk about the secondary just real quickly, because the thing is, I learned to like Ahkello Witherspoon toward the end of the season. I thought I saw him making a lot of improvements. But now you've got Jason Barret out there, and everybody knows Jason Barret can be very, very good, but he has an inability to stay on the field any length of time. With Richard Sherman and Jason Barret, I keep slapping myself to make sure. Did they say that? We've got Barret on one side and Richard Sherman on the other? Really? And it doesn't matter about the safety then. I mean, because you got Jimmy Ward back there competing. You've got maybe Colbert. Colbert, can he return to what he looked like in his rookie year? What are we going to do about the safety? Because the corners apparently are going to be fine.
Yeah, you've got enough depth at corner to at least be all right. And, you could bank on Akello Witherspoon bouncing back, and he looked better down the stretch, which is good. Richard Sherman came out, I think, a little bit ago and said, no, he's fine. Don't worry about him. He's going to bounce back. And Jason Barret, if he can stay healthy, even if he just, he's kind of banged up, but gives you 8 games, that's good.
Please.
The good thing about this class, 8, 5. The good thing about this safety class, there's a lot of talented safeties. I was doing a little bit of a draft breakdown last night, taking a look at some guys who might be able to play really well in a single high scheme like the 49ers run. Nazir Adderley, he's a personal favorite. I like him out of Delaware, a guy that I've seen some comps to Earl Thomas. Jonathan Abram out of Mississippi State, another one. Those are probably going to be maybe your late first rounders, early second rounders, guys that might fall into the 49ers laps at number 36 overall. Those would be some players I'd keep an eye on. I wouldn't be shocked one bit because, even if Adrian Colbert plays well, even if Jimmy Ward plays well this year, Ward's probably not going to be around in 2020. So you got to think about his replacement. It's got that 1-year deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers are like, all right, we'll keep you around one more year to kind of prove it. But, Colbert might be a quality starter. He might be a really good backup. You don't know. Fortunately, there's some really good safety prospects that could go pretty high in this year's draft that could at least spark the competition this year, which is good.
And they do look good too. And I was going to ask you. What are your priorities of the second round pick? And you mentioned Abrams. You mentioned Nasser. Hopefully, they'll fall into our lap. Peter, expand upon that a little bit, though, as far as wide receivers. And it seems the 49ers are seriously searching for a wide receiver. But I thought maybe after they picked up wide receiver of the ex-Eagle just the other day, I thought that would probably be about it. But what do you think?
Yeah, Jordan Matthews is another guy. It's kind of like this 1-year prove-it deal. And it's almost like some of the 49ers free agent deals were kind of like, insurance options. Like, well, what happens if this guy doesn't fall to us in the draft? Well, at least we have somebody. If we don't get a good wide receiver that we want. Well, Jordan Matthews, last 2 years were kind of rough. Context, he wasn't in the best situation, but the guy can play. As far as wide receivers, though, you look at a physical freak like DK Metcalf. Whether or not he falls into round 2, I don't think so. No. But he's a beast. Yeah. You could look at a few other. The draft at wide receiver is pretty top heavy. So there's a lot of prospects, but they're all probably going to go in the first 2 rounds. I'd say there's probably 3 guys that I'm looking at as far as that round 2 pick. I just did a little piece on Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State, probably one of the biggest wide receivers. Yeah, he's
really
like 6'5".
Popular.
Yeah, but he's fast too. Ran a sub 4.5 at the combine, and his route running is it's all right. His hands are questionable, but as far as just the sheer talent, it's like, yeah, okay, I see that. Big target. 49ers could use one of those. A red zone threat. Deebo Samuel, of course, had a phenomenal week at the Senior Bowl. 49ers coached him. Kyle Shanahan coached and got to work with him. Riley Ridley was another player who didn't put up a lot of stats in college, but Georgia didn't run the ball, or Georgia didn't pass the ball. Georgia ran the ball, and so Riley Ridley's numbers weren't that great.
An important point, though.
They said the same about Michael Thomas, and look what he's doing with New Orleans.
Right.
So Ridley, his stock's fallen a little bit. Didn't have the best combine. I haven't taken a look at Pro Day. I don't even know if he's had his yet, but his stock's fallen a little bit. So maybe that's somebody who could slip into round 3 if the 49ers want to push that back a little bit. But those are kind of the 3 of the prospects that I'd be kind of eyeing if I'm San Francisco and want to use that second rounder on a wide receiver, which is probably just about as same a need as safety right now.
If I had to say between A and B as far as 1 and 2 priority wise, where would you go with that? Because safety versus wide receiver, because Kyle Shanahan, Peter, you and I could go out there and suit up. He's going to make sure if we listen to instruction and run the routes like he's told, we could be open within seconds after that ball is snapped.
Yeah.
So
you know what? Honestly, I'd probably say safety is the bigger priority because you think about the shortcomings on defense. Yeah, wide receiver, like Dante Pettis is coming back in. And he finished last year very strong. Watching him was fun. You imagine that's going to carry over a little bit more over the entire season. Hopefully he stays healthy. Jordan Matthews, I think he could be another player, kind of like what Marquise Goodwin was in his first year with the 49ers, where it's like, where'd this come from? This is great. And Jordan Matthews can run too, so it's not like he's a slow guy with no route running. So the 49ers have made those investments there. I think there's bigger question marks as far as safety, and that's where you're going to want to see the 49ers upgrade. I mean, you just look at the overall numbers. 49ers offense last year, kind of middle of the pack, despite going through 3 different quarterbacks, losing their best running back. Like you said, Kyle Shanahan can dial up screens to get people open. The defense, even with a lot of pretty lofty investments, hasn't quite been there, needs to generate turnovers. What do? You make those high priority investments on that side of the ball. So safety it is.
That makes sense too. And I'd love to get your opinion, as you just mentioned, DK Metcalf, which is actually DK Metcalf was my dream pick until the cone drills at the combine, and I said, the coaches are looking at that. DK can run like the wind. He's, like you said, he's an athletic freak. But Kyle Shanahan plays close attention to detail. If he can't get in and out of routes quickly, and I don't know that you'd use. Is there a way you could use DK Metcalf that he could still be effective without making him run razor sharp routes? And it kind of worries me there.
Yeah, I think you can. I think a little bit's going to have to. I mean, you can put him into a situation where you can generate more complex routes if you do a good amount of misdirections and play actions, that sort of thing. And Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay down with the Rams, they're probably among the best in the NFL right now. Especially that young crop of coaches being able to do that. So you can kind of get with play action, you can get a defensive back, a guy in coverage, to cheat a little bit. And even if you don't have the best footwork, you don't have the best route running skills, that's when it can happen. And you're like, okay, all right. So, fortunately, route running, those sort of, those are things that you can coach up on a player. So, and if a guy's got the actual, the absolute intangibles, got the raw skill set that can make a difference, it's worth taking a shot, especially when it is a pressing need like the 49ers have there.
Oh, God, because I figure the 49ers are going to go a little crazy this year because they're feeling a little bit of the heat and pressure from the fan base, even though they won't admit it. And I could just see them now reaching back into the first round and grabbing a DK Metcalf, unless there's that other guy like Debo or somebody else, and Hakeem, like you mentioned, that they're pretty sure they're going to see in the second round. Because from what I understand from last year, the reason they reached up to go ahead and get Dante Pettis is because word was that the Cardinals were going to pick him up, the 49ers didn't. So I wonder if we're going to see any surprises this year in the draft.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, depth is important, and the 49ers need to take care of depth. But and who knows what the ammunition is, come up with any sort of trade scenario you want. But, if the 49ers trade down out of number 2, if they, think that's a better route, or they get an offer they can't refuse. But if the 49ers came away with, either a dominant force up front like a Quintin Williams, or an outside edge rusher like Nick Bosa, Brian Burns, another guy and then wind up getting a really solid wide receiver who can be a potential number 2 or a number 1, and a good quality safety. I'm not even so worried about cornerbacks right now. If they wind up with those 3 positions filled, I'll be good. However you do it, you trade the rest of the picks in later the rounds, if you kind of dip in a little bit into next year's selection, whatever, hey, fine. But those are the 3 position groups that I'd be looking at and saying, that's what you need to get. Just those.
Yeah, and we'll be riding off. And speaking of which, position groups, I guess the most blessed group we have this year, talk about depth, the running back crew is ridiculous. You got McKinnon, who's also, and people don't know enough about McKinnon yet. They say, well, we can get rid of McKinnon. Whoa, before you just get rid of McKinnon, okay? He does a lot of things that he hasn't exposed to us. We didn't see him do anything else. Then you pick up Tevin Coleman. From what I understand, if you're going to predict it or compare him with Coleman or McKinnon, he's just maybe a step a little slower on routes and this and that, but once he gets the ball, he explodes. Jet is going to get rid of a guy a lot faster than Tevin will as far as a one-on-one coverage. Like a linebacker gets on Tevin, he can pretty much forget it. Tevin, of course, will finesse him and get away as well. But these guys got great speed. And then you got Matty Breda. Well, I can't imagine, Peter. I can't imagine him standing on the sideline in his street clothes or just sort of standing there waiting for next week to maybe be activated. But Mostert's going to be on the field. I understand he's going to be designated as a reserve backup because he's already in on special teams. Matty B, does that lend credence also to the trade talks between the Eagles and the 49ers to replace Ajayi in Philadelphia? Peter, tie it all together for us.
You know, I highly, unless the Eagles come offering some stuff that the Niners can't turn down, or whatever team says, hey, we'll trade you this that you just can't turn down. The 49ers aren't going to do it. I mean, you think about the injury position or the injury attrition that took place at that spot. Not only, I mean, you'd like to think Jerick McKinnon's back to 100% by training camp. Don't know. You know, even if he is back, I mean, it's Jimmy Garoppolo's knee. That's one thing. Garoppolo doesn't have to run anymore, nor should he. Keep that knee. You're fine. Just go down. It's fine. Run out of bounds. You're good. But you think about Jet McKinnon. You know, it's going to be a lot more pressure to get that knee moving, all the lateral movement, everything like that. I'm no medical expert, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out that a running back you're going to be more careful with an ACL on that. Matt Breida averaged 5.3 yards a carry. You're not going to keep that off the field. That was like fourth best in the NFL, I think, last year among qualifiers. And of course, Tevin Coleman
with a bad ankle.
Yeah, with a bad ankle, banged up for most of the year, and still managed to do that. I mean, running hurt. I mean, talk about heart. You can't take someone out who's been hurt for most of the season and still shows up, delivers all that. The only thing that I could see, I mean, the 49ers can keep all four backs, and you could see a little bit of an emphasis rotation depending on matchups. Hey, we're going to give Jerick McKinnon a little bit of a light workload this week, and then maybe kind of uptick him next while we, give Tevin Coleman a break. Not your best fantasy football situation, of course, but like if you're looking at just kind of keeping your running backs fresh, not necessarily, putting a guy on inactive, 49ers could trim a roster spot elsewhere, maybe a number 3 tight end, or there's a lot of versatility now, like we mentioned on the defensive line. So you can maybe, cut one of your backups there and put him on inactive. So the 49ers have options, and you got to keep in mind that Raheem Mostert's a player who, until last year, didn't really see much of the offensive side of the field. Did well last year when he finally got that chance, but his value's on special teams. And, there's so many other players at other positions where they don't see the field except for special teams. So, if you think of him just as a special teams ace, which he is, and he can contribute offensively if needed, then, all right, keeping 4 running backs doesn't make sense. Or it makes sense. It's just, Raheem Mostert's got an RB next to his name. That's the only difference. So,
true. So it's going to be interesting to see. And some of the potential plays, I see a defensive coordinator sitting up in his booth, and there's Jet McKinnon lining up in the slot. And then there's a bunch formation going on down at the end with Tevin Coleman and, let's say, Marquise Goodwin. Now, that's very scary right there. I'm going to put Trent Taylor on the opposite side of the field just to confuse that DC even more. So I got a lot of small, quick people running around out there. And where am I going to put Juice? I've said if you play around with these players, it's like a chess game. And you know how Kyle Shanahan is. The potential seems with Shanahan's mind and his way to throw X's and O's around the field, I could see teams being completely helpless. You got George Kittle in that mix. I could see teams being completely helpless versus that offense.
Yeah, you're gonna have a linebacker who's going to be out in the slot somewhere covering. It's like I'm not supposed to be covering Tevin Coleman running a slot route or Jerick McKinnon covering in a slot route. Usually I'm playing better in a crowded space, and a cornerback's going to be dropping down, going, this running back could easily, I'm in zone, and this guy could easily bowl me over. What? Wait a second, that's going to be it. I think with this year you're going to see a lot of that. I mean, you already have, but you're going to see a lot of those chess match pieces that Kyle Shanahan's so good at, on offense and drawing those things up. So I think this year with those weapons, it's going to be fun. And the added bonus of, look, you've reinforced a position that was really banged up last year. You don't have to worry about that as much anymore. That's going to be huge.
I can't wait. And we got, well, you know what? Let's see what happens after draft night, and then I can go ahead and make my prediction of 14-2. But it all depends on the defense.
Let's go with 16 and 2. Yeah. Let's tack on. Let's get the first round bye.
Get to the playoffs. Anything can happen. It doesn't usually, but anything can happen. And normally every team they pick to win the Super Bowl or get into the Super Bowl, because we already know the Patriots are going to be there somehow. And then it's versus, the Patriots don't necessarily, they'll have to go through a lot this year, but you already know the Patriots are going to be in the mix. They're going to get in the playoffs, and somebody's going to come and challenge maybe Kansas City this year or whatever. But the thing I'm concerned with is if the defense, and I suspect Robert Saleh, everybody's pretty much blaming his scheme for why the defense suffers so badly. But if this defense, and you know how it's supposed to work, because we've seen how it works when it's working properly, could it be this year that if you get a defense to help Kyle Shanahan, couldn't that make for a very, very incredible unit?
Yeah, and it's so too. I mean, football is such a hand in glove sport. I mean, you remember 2017 when Jimmy Garoppolo came in those 5 games. It was almost like, well, the defense is playing better. Like they're forcing 3 and outs, and it's like, oh well, yeah, they're rested now. They're not on the field the entire time. Yes. This is making sense. And so the offense last year going through so many difficulties with injury that probably affected the defense too, and vice versa. So one of the things about Robert Saleh's defense, that cover 3, and this isn't me just saying this, you read this in a number of places, that the 2 big components, the 2 critical components, are having that weak side edge rusher, that Leo spot that, honestly, I don't think most 49er fans knew what it was until this cover 3 Seattle-like defense. Oh, it's a Leo. Let's all say Leo. But that weak side pass rusher and a single high safety. The 49ers got one of those in D Ford. They're hoping for bounce back from, Adrian Colbert or Jimmy Ward, or a draftee coming in early this April who gives them that piece in the very end of the defense. And so those 2 positions, one of them's addressed. And if you believe that a secondary is only as good as its pass rush, well, yeah, I think that a lot of people, and Robert Saleh is learning, but I think a lot of people are going to be able to take a little bit of a step back and say, okay, I see how this is starting to work now.
Yeah. One final thing. Why didn't the 49ers go after Earl? I'm not sure if Earl Thomas, I'm not sure if it's about his age, or would Earl have been a disruption to the peace and harmony in the Santa Clara clubhouse? I'm not sure. What do you think?
I wish I knew.
Did you want Earl Thomas?
That's one of those. Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course. That was one of the high-profile people that I've been talking about, and I know a lot of people have talking about saying, look, he's the guy that made that cover 3 scheme work so well in Seattle. He's a perennial Pro Bowler, a guy who can still, he's coming off injury, but a guy who still, has 3-4 more years left in him.
At least.
You look at the number given to Quan Alexander, the guarantees are a little different, but the total salary given to Quan Alexander wasn't that far off from Earl Thomas's salary. And what was the bigger need? So that was kind of my thing. And it's like, all right, well, that's kind of the perspective on it, that I was like, all right, well, I kind of would have liked to see Earl Thomas there, but whether or not, if the Niners really were making a real serious offer, or if they were, in the mix but not going to overcommit, I have no idea. But if it were up to me, I would have said, hey, Earl, what do you want? Here's a blank check. Cool, there you go. Come to San Francisco.
Because you didn't hear anything about the 49ers making any kind of a play for Earl, right?
Not much. Just some of the insiders saying, I think Matt Mayoko from NBC Sports Bay Area said, that of course they would want Earl Thomas, but then here's, a bunch of the factors leading in. I can't remember if it was him. I think it was. But those are the things where it's like, I'm sure that they would have been interested. Richard Sherman was saying, yeah, I'm sure the 49ers will be in the mix, but ultimately, there's so many other factors here. It just makes me wonder if the Niners had another plan in mind that they were looking at, and they were kind of warmly interested, but they weren't going to get into any sort of bidding war. And the deal that Thomas eventually signed with Baltimore was way out of their bidding range. Again, I don't know if I would have gone that way, but hey, they study stuff way more than we ever do in 1,000 lifetimes. So
it's just God,
maybe it's
standing on
right,
the outside, just looking in. And one final thing before we say goodbye, because I keep one final thing, Peter. Trey Boston. Why won't anybody talk to Trey Boston? I
don't know.
He'd be. See, there's a lot of things that don't make any sense. What if we put him back on the safety? I have a feeling he'd do a great job.
He'd be great. I mean, the guy's, I don't know why he's a journeyman safety. He's a really darn good safety that thrives in a bunch of different schemes. Always seems to do well where he goes. I mean, I forget, he had like 8 interceptions the last 2 years. He's a good player, a good quality player, and he'd come cheap. He's never signed that big lucrative deal asking for a ton of money. I mean, a guy who's got some leadership skills too. Like, I don't have his phone number, but I'd call him up right now and say, hey,
Trey,
Trey,
come to San Francisco.
Yeah, try calling John Lynch and just say, hey, how's the food there? You know.
I think he picked us off against the Cardinals last year. I mean, yeah. I think he did get one on us. A lot of people did, but I mean, the thing is, he was one of them, and we couldn't make any plays out there. He was all over everybody as soon as the ball got out there. So I don't understand the thing about Trey Boston. Somebody said he's got issues that will affect your locker room harmony as well. But is there some point, though, Peter, when you have to get a guy in? Now, I understand that AB would have probably been the worst thing they could probably bring to the locker room, because the way it sounds now is AB is trying to talk himself into appreciating being a Raider. So, maybe the 49ers foresaw that and said, let's not get involved with that marriage breakup. So they go ahead and they go after Odell Beckham Jr., but that failed because the Giants lost their mind and asked for DeForest Buckner along with the second overall pick from what the rumor says. So do you abandon policy maybe here and there for players? I guess they would have for Odell Beckham Jr. He's got some diva in him for guys like Trey Boston. Because if he is what they say he is, or the rumors are.
Yeah, but here's the part that I think that they'll know way more than we will. Because they're going to be embedded with clubs and teams and players, former teammates all around the league. Hey, tell us about this guy. What do you think? Or they've got their insiders, clubhouse managers. When you're in that sort of core group, you can talk to people that will never ever even know. And so I think I don't know how the evaluation goes, of course, but it could be an evaluatory scale where it's just like, yeah, no, that guy's off our radar, or we'd think about this player, but only if it's this short term of a deal and at this comfort level cost wise, so that we don't have to worry about committing a lot of money to someone who might be a complete headache in the locker room and really start to be dysfunctional. One thing though about that Niners locker room is you do have some really core leaders already established. So someone comes in and causes problems with that. Those core leaders like Joe Staley, Richard Sherman, Phil Dawson. Wow. Robbie Gould. I guess Phil's walking around hanging out saying, hey, I'm back, guys, for a week. You've got the captains. Yeah. You get Quan Alexander, great leader. These guys are going to be in there, stamping out anything that could be a problem. So, and everyone I've talked to, the players I've talked to, the interviews, things like that, everyone's always, this regime, the one thing that it's got under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch is that locker room's never wavered. You've never gotten the disgruntled stuff. I remember all the stuff going on with the Raiders last year, veterans wanting out, guys throwing each other under the bus, and other cities too, everything that was happening. Cleveland, New York, a bunch of places. 49ers been a sub 500 team for a while. In these last 2 years, there could be room for some frustrations. No. If there are, we sure aren't hearing them.
Not hearing it. Yeah, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I attribute that to Kyle Shanahan's leadership. When people say this is it for Shanahan, him and Lynch both are out of here next year, I said, no, they're not. Jed gave him a 6-year contract for a reason. You guys think you can't build a team overnight when you're coming from scratch? It's a logic I can't. It bothers me. Oh, God.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Me too.
Well, hey, he's Peter Panacy. You can check him out. Peter is like Web Zone. You'll see him Liner Noise. The guy is just all over the NFL 49ers, and he does good stuff. Hey, Peter, it's time to say goodnight, Peter, so I can't have you leave without giving me a cheer, man.
Getting warmed up.
Are you ready? And 3. Wait, give me that a second. And 2, and 1. Niners! Peter! Yeah!
Bam.
Thank you, Peter. Man, that's a lot of great insights, Peter, man. Peter Panacy. Check him out at Niner Noise, as just mentioned, and also the Web Zone here and there. And check out and Twitter him. Yeah, join Peter, man. The guys, I love Peter, man. Hey, coming up this weekend, of course, starting from Friday all the way to Sunday. Well, we'll take it off Saturday, but Friday and Sunday, of course, you always got things going on, including a GM, of course, this week and all our gatherings as we do on the weekends. Fam, listen, don't leave without hitting that like. I know. Ronbo gonna tell us to hit some like. You know I help. Hey, just don't forget that. Hit that like. I love you back. I'll see you this weekend. I'm out. Go ahead and count me down.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred
Niners!
Oh, this you crazy mother.